Hey there, welcome back. So in the last video, we completed all universal related pages. So now we'll deal with the login page. So for that, the dependencies that we are going to use is the NextAuth. We'll use the NextAuth and also the Prisma ORM to deal with databases. And the database that we are going to use is the PostgreSQL. And apart from that, I'm going to use the React query library as well for fetching asynchronous data and also caching and refetching. So it provides us a lot of hooks to make our work easier. And it is very popular among the community. So we are going to use this one. Okay. So without wasting much time, so let's get started. So first, as I said, I'm going to install the dependencies. So first is the NextAuth. Okay. After that, so if you go back to the Prisma, as I mentioned, Prisma adapter, so we need these dependencies as well. So Prisma client and also NextAuth Prisma adapter canary. So this version, so this also we're going to install, and later we'll install the Prisma as well. Okay, just a second. So first let's install this. So let's install NextAuth, Prisma client and the Prisma adapter. So and also we'll install this Prisma for dev dependencies. Okay, yes. So it's taking time, let's wait. So in this video we'll complete the login mechanism. Okay, so that is installed. So I'm going to install this Prisma dev dependency as well. So yeah, under dev dependency Prisma should be installed. Yeah, so dev dependency Prisma is installed, and the NextAuth and also the Prisma adapter Prisma client is done. So now before, and as I said again, this React query, so this dependency is also needed. So we'll install that as well. So React query is also installed. So now here we have to wrap all our components inside the session provider of NextAuth and also the query client provider of React query. Okay, so we're gonna do that. So in this, inside this, first I'm going to call the session provider. Session provider. Okay, and for this we have to pass this session parameter. Okay, so let's import this. Import session provider from NextAuth / React. Okay, and also this session from NextAuth. Fine. So and here the params we are going to extend this, so it will be of type, we are going to session, and also we're going to add the session property to page props. Okay, so yeah, and here we'll make this as generic. So here it will have the session. Okay, yes. So now inside this, all this will be wrapped. Okay, so and now inside this, as I said, the query client provider from React query. So here client will have to pass the query client object. So just here I'm going to create object of that. So let's name this as query client. Okay, and this will be object of type query client from React query library. Okay, and this we are going to pass to this client attribute. So this will be query client. Yeah, and now we are going to wrap these components inside the query client provider. Okay, so this is it. Now so now what we have to do is I have to extend the session object from NextAuth. So for that to happen, so what we supposed to do is so let's go inside the source and define the new folder called types. Okay, and inside this I'm going to call the file name as NextAuth .ts. So this is nothing but assuming there is an object session inside our library that we are using, in this case NextAuth, and we want to add additional parameter for that. So this is how we are going to do it. So first we'll declare this is coming from NextAuth module, okay, like this, and then we are going to write interface session, okay, and make a user as same default session, okay, from NextAuth itself, this one, and this will have all the user whatever the properties it had, and additional thing that we are adding is the user ID. Okay, so this is how we are going to extend the particular interfaces or object of a library we are using. So once so this now we can add our user ID. So now we have to add the authentication. For that to happen, inside our pages directory we should add the auth folder inside API folder. So let's go ahead and auth, and also now all sign in page, logout page and all will be handled by this multiple page indicator, that is 3 dots and next the file name. So I'm going to write that is NextAuth.txx. okay, and these all details are mentioned in their documentation, so you guys can go and refer there as well. So we're going to export the auth options, okay, auth options, and we are going to inherit from NextAuth options. Fine, so here the adapter, as I mentioned, it is going to be a Prisma adapter that we'll be using, and also here the DB, we have to give the details of the DB. So here I'm going to write the inside our utils folder the DB util. So just inside this core I'm going to create a new file called db.ts, okay, and in here I'm going to import the Prisma client which we have just installed. So it's nothing but gives us the instance of a Prisma client, okay. So and I'm going to declare on global variable so that we can use this variable. This would be of type Prisma client, okay, fine, and so this we are going to initialize with global this dot db, okay, or new Prisma client, fine. So here based on the environment we can assign the client we want. So here we are going to assign, so if this is not equal to production, I'm going to assign to global db variable the about db, okay, and then we are going to export the db object, okay. So now that we are going to make use of here, so we will import that db, Okay, so import db from here. After that we should provide the email provider. So here we are going to use the node mailer, so that also we should install the dependency. So we'll import email provider from NextAuth provider's email. So that is email provider. Okay, so email provider, and here we have to mention our email server and the from email address. Okay, so here I'm going to use my personal Gmail. You can use whatever the SMT server you want. So accordingly you have to configure the details for that respective SMTP server. Okay, so as I said, we should have this node mailer dependency as well. So I'm going to install that package. Okay, fine. So here server, what I'm going to do inside our environment, I'm going to create here .env file, and in that we're going to define all these credentials that is needed. So let's create that. Okay, the first thing, as I mentioned, the server email from. So here I'm going to give my email address. Okay, so fine, and then email server. As I said, here I have to I will be using my personal email, so accordingly we have to mention the protocol, that is SMT, and here mention our from email, I mean from which email we are supposed to send the mail. Okay, and then once we give this email we have to provide password here. So there is some trickiest part here. So for node so to use a Gmail with the node mailer, you have to just a second. So node mail, see the way you have to get the, just a second, yeah. So here if you want to use your Gmail as sending emails, you have to get the application specific password. So this because obviously you'll have the multi-factor authentication enabled, so for that you have to get the application specific password and use that password here. So this is how it's going to look. So once you so let's say I'm just entering, I already have that password, but I'm just showcasing you guys how to get. Okay, here you have to select whatever the app, you can just give custom name and all. It will click on generate, it will generate you the password, and then you can use that password to send the mails. Okay, fine. So as I said, I already have, so I'm going to take that. Okay, so here, and this I'm not going to show this password. Okay, so this is how it's going to look. Okay, fine. So then, so now going back to our NextAuth. So here I can use that now, that environment variable we have just configured, that is process.env email server. Okay, email server, and here again process.env email from. These are the two things needed. Okay, after this callback functions. Okay, here I'm going to take the session object. Okay, and the user, and update our user ID with the ID of the current user, and then return that session object. Okay, Fine. And after this we have to configure the pages. So the pages here, sign in page will be our login page, which I will create in just a few seconds, and also the verify request, so it will be of same page. Okay, login page, and parameter for this uh, query param that will be sending is the verify request as 1. Okay, this will be quite tricky, but you can get more details by looking at the NextAuth official documentation. And here we have to provide the secret. Okay, so this is for when you deploy it needs the secret. So to generate a random secret, you can just use this open SSL and generate 32 bits password. Okay, using this command. So if you just type, so it is going to give you random number, and then you can use this random 32-bit number as your secret. Okay, so we are going to configure that secret here as well in our env file. So let's name this as secret. Okay, and use this, and refer that variable here. Okay, yeah. So and finally we have to pass this to our NextAuth function. Okay, yeah, and here there is some issue. Okay, so here yes, and here comma. Okay, fine. So this is how we configure the email provider. And now next what we have to do, as I mentioned, so going back to your Prisma adapter, so once we have this dependencies installed, we have to set up this schema, Prisma schema, for the handling our user account session. So by default these are the tables that we should have: account, session, and user, and verification request. So and also here the database DB provider, we have to mention our PostgreSQL URL endpoint. Okay, and here we have to mention PostgreSQL and URL. Okay, fine. So now we are going to configure this schema. So what we'll do is I'm going to create a new folder called Prisma. So I'm going to create new folder called Prisma, and in this I'm going to define the schema for our database. Okay, schema.prisma. Fine. So here what and all we need was clearly mentioned, but I'm going to explain you guys. Okay, clearly. Fine. So here data source and DB. Okay, we have to provide the provider, and it will be of PostgreSQL, and the URL we have to provide. So here I'm going to use the environment variable database URL. So that we are going to configure here. So let's configure that. So database URL. Okay, and as I mentioned, you have to give your local, if you're using local PostgreSQL, that URL, or if any cloud provider database, you have to provide that database URL. So first the URL looks like this. Okay, I'm using the local PostgreSQL, so I'm mentioning this, and after that here the username of your database, and also the password for this. Okay, password for your database, and then the endpoint URL endpoint of your database, and then port of that. Finally the database name. So here our database name is your avatar. Okay, fine. So going back to our Prisma schema, so this is what we have defined. Now next is we have to configure the generator. Okay, so Let me install my Prisma. Okay, it's already installed. Okay, fine. So here generate a client, and here we have to provide a Prisma client here. Okay, and then now we are going to define our tables. So first one is the account table. So in this the attributes that we'll be having is nothing but the columns. It will be of ID, and this would be of type string, and it will be of unique ID, and also default we will make it come from the CUID. Okay, and then user ID, this again would be of type string, and we'll map the name in our database, actual PostgreSQL database, as user ID, and here type. Okay, and here provider. So this is like default recommended to work with our NextAuth mechanism. Okay, and here provider account ID and string. Okay, and here we'll change the name in our database table, so to it as a provider account underscore ID. Okay, and then here refresh token, and this again will be of type string, and we'll convert this to db.text in our PostgreSQL, and then access token, this again would be of type string optional. Okay, and again this also will convert it to our db.text. Yeah, and then the token expires at section, this would be of type int, and then scope, this again would be of type string, then ID token, this again would be of type string, and we will map it to db.text. Then session state, this again would be of type string. Fine, so this is the these are the attributes needed in our accounts table, and here the unique thing in this table will account table will make as provider and provider account ID unique attribute, and then the table name we want in our DB as accounts. So this is how we provide table name if you want to change that. And the next table is our session table. Okay, and this will have ID and string. Okay, same, this would be ID and unique ID, and also the kind of primary key. Okay, and then we are going to defaultly generate this, and the session token, this again would be of type string, and this would be unique, and we are going to change the name to session token in our database tables. Okay, and here user ID, so this is string, and the change name of this in our DB would be user ID. Okay, and expires, this is of type date time. Okay, and the table name will be sessions in our PostgreSQL database. Fine, then the another table is user. Okay, this would have the ID. Okay, same, this would be primary key, and we are going to defaultly generate this. Okay, fine, after this we will have the name, we'll take the name of the user and also the email again, this has to be unique. Okay, and email verified, so this would be of type date time. So, and mapping it to this name, will change it as email verified in our database. And the image attribute, again this would be of type string, Okay, yeah, and we'll yes, so the name of this table will change it to users in our database. Okay, fine. And one more, where the table name is verification token. Okay, so in this will have identifier of type string and then token attribute of type string, and this should be unique, and expires, so this will be of type date time, and then unique part in this table would be identifier along with its token, and the name of this table in a database would be verification token. This is like if you want to change to the default verification token to appear in our database, this is how you do it. Okay, using Prisma. Fine. Now so the relationship that we have to configure is account. So user can have multiple accounts. So here I'm going to have here list of accounts, so it throws error, so we have to here configure the relationship. So what I'll do here, create a user attribute, and this would be of type user, and its relation. Okay, and fields here in this we're going to map user ID of this table to the ID of user table, and on deleting we are going to cascade it. Okay, fine. So this is one. After that, event session should be associated with particular user. Okay, so here again this would be of type user, and the relation here will associate user ID from this table to the ID of user table. Okay, again on delete we are going to cascade it. So same, going back to user, we have to configure sessions list. Okay, yeah, so the error is gone. So now the relations and also the tables required to handle the login authentication mechanism, I think it's almost done. Fine. So now to generate the schema and also the see the reflection of the table in our local database, we have to run this command. So that is, once we have this, we have to use Prisma CLI to generate Prisma client, and then to configure our database we have to run Prisma migrate dev. Okay, so let us do this. Okay, so going here, I'm going to run this command. Okay, we got an error. So what is this? So I'm not able to use the environment variable. Why? Okay, I have that right. Database URL. So let me run this on the first command. Okay, that is npx prisma generate. Fine, and then we're going to migrate. So here it's not able to identify environment variable. Okay, so what for now, I'll take directly this and use it he has a string. So later I'll figure out where we missed it. Okay, so let's run this. Yeah, so your avatar is created. So if you go to our database and refresh this, okay, so if you refresh this, we should have our, yeah, you see here the table for our your avatar. Okay, and in this, if you go to schemas and see the tables thing, the thing we just have, 1 second. We are just saying the table as, okay, fine. We should be able to see those tables account, and so let me refresh this. Okay, what is happening? Okay, fine. Sorry, guys. It just created the database. Here we have to enter the name for migration. Then it will create the tables for that. Okay. So here I will create here it as migration name as your avatar init. Okay. And then now the tables, whatever the we have configured here, the session, user and verification token and account has to be created in our your avatar database. So now I'm going to refresh this. Yeah, you see here account, sessions, users and verification tokens, these tables are created. Okay, fine. So the tables needed to handle authentication mechanism is done. Now I'll go back to the components and first design the login page. So as I mentioned, for this to happen, we need a login page component. First I'm going to design the login page. Okay, so inside this layout I'm going to create a one component called auth form. So here what we want to showcase, once user clicks on the sign in button, we're going to configure that component in this component. Okay, fine. So export default function, let's name this as auth form. Fine. So here I would maintain one local state variable to capture the email that user is going to type using the use state hook. Okay, initially I'll make it as a empty, and then here we are going to use the sign in function from our NextAuth. Okay, here I am going to use the React query use mutation hook. Okay, so here the attributes is loading and also is success will be returned for this by from use mutation hook. Okay, and here the name of this is login, and the callback function is we are going to call the sign in function of NextAuth. Okay, and this would be of type email, and that attributes that it needs is email and also redirect false. Okay, and callback URL. Okay, once the on success it will be redirected to the dashboard page. Okay, so as of now we don't have the page of that, so I will redirect it to prompts page. Okay, later I will change this. Okay, fine. So this is the use mutation work. After this, by default the content that has to be visible on this page would be, so I'm going to use this tag. Okay, from ChakraUI, and give some spacing 4 and give width as 100%, and margin X as auto. So and max width make it as a medium, and padding y direction give 12, padding x direction as 6. Okay, and inside this we're going to use one more stack to create a sign into your avatar heading, and then we will render the text like use your email address to sign in and all. So okay, so quickly I'm going to write that is stack text align. I will make this as center, and align again center, and spacing I'd give nothing. Okay, fine. And here we're going to use the text component and make for this heading. Okay, font weight I'll make this as extra bold, and make it act as a h2 tag, and font size. Okay, first let me import this text. So here text. Okay, and font size I'll make 4 times extra large. Okay, in this the text is sign into your avatar. Okay, yeah. Then after this one more text which says forgive, let's give font size as just large. Here we'll same to use your email address to sign in, so that we can send a magic link to his email, right? So yeah, just beneath this then we are going to create a form which will take email as an input, and also the button on clicking the, like let's say send magic link button, on clicking that link we should send an email to the user so that user can log in. Okay, fine. So here I'm going to wrap all of this inside the box container, and rounded I'll make this as large, and the background let's keep it as a white. Okay, fine. And a box shadow let's make this as large. Okay, and padding in all direction 8. Fine, yeah. After this inside this stack container, so we'll make this act as a form, and here we'll handle the on submit thing. So once we click on, user clicks on send a magic link button, this is how we are going to handle. So we'll just make default event not to happen, and also if email is there, so it's not empty, then we are going to call that above login function which we have created. So here, so that you see here, this is the login function which will be triggering once the user clicks on send email button. Okay, kind of submitting the form. After this the spacing for this I give spacing as 4. Fine, yeah. Inside this we're going to use the form control, and give ID here as email, and here the label, form label for this would be email address. Okay, and input here is required. Okay, not read only, is required, and the value would be whatever value will be stored in email variable. And on change we're going to update that email variable. So set email e dot current target dot value. Okay, and the placeholder initially will be like your email at the rate gmail.com something. Okay, fine. And this would be of type email. Yeah, so this is email input. So just beneath this we are going to have the button. So again this will wrap inside stack, and spacing will give it as 10, and here we're going to use button, and this is loading. We'll make use of that loading value from this use mutation result. Okay, and the right icon here, it is paper plain. Okay, so for paper plain from React icons. Okay, yes, and this is of type submit, and the variant of this is brand, and the content title of this button is send magic link. Okay, fine. So this is it for this component. So the component needed for our login page is done. So inside our pages folder, we're going to create one page called login. So let's go ahead and name this as login.txx. Okay, and then use that auth form component inside this. So let's create this component as login, no input params, and then we're going to wrap around flex container. Okay, and so make a flex as 1 and align center, and justify also center, and here I'm going to use that component auth form. Fine. This, as I said, in index page, in the hero header part, right? So going here, header, on clicking the login button, where is here, it should take to login page. Okay, as of now, let's just check how does this looks like. Okay, so going back to the browser and going to our home page, so clicking on this. Okay, there is no export in our login page. Okay, I always tend to forget this. So here, okay, so now let's go back to browser. Okay, I don't see anything. Okay, let's check. Ideally we should be able to see this auth form. What's wrong with this? I don't know. Let's check. Auth form. So going back, checking the auth form. Let's refresh. Okay, I don't see the content. Ideally this should be showcased there. Did I miss anything? Okay, maybe in the next video I'll figure it out and let you guys know. Okay, so this is it for this video. Thank you so much.